Hello. Today General Hospital Drew Kane has once again found himself at the center of chaos in Port Charles, as word spreads that he is preparing to leave town with his daughter, Scout. The sudden decision carries the weight of finality, sparking speculation that it could mark the end of his presence on General Hospital. But beyond the potential off-screen implications, Drew's move has already ignited fierce emotional conflict within the show. His determination to remove Scout from everything and everyone she knows has set off a chain reaction of heartbreak, anger, and suspicion across multiple families, threatening to fracture already fragile bonds in Port Charles. What Drew insists is an attempt to protect his daughter has instead put her future in jeopardy, isolating her from the very family members who have supported her through the darkest of times. Drew's reputation has been deteriorating for months, if not years. Viewers vividly recall his disastrous meddling in the lives of Willow and Michael. Instead of respecting their boundaries, Drew resorted to manipulation, lies, and even blackmail to bend the circumstances in his favor. At one point, he fabricated evidence about Michael's supposed drug use, a vile move that not only undermined Michael but also scarred Wiley emotionally when the boy overheard poisonous accusations. This series of transgressions chipped away at any remaining goodwill the audience may have had for Drew. The man once positioned as a protective father figure now stands exposed as a calculating opportunist, whose choices continually place those around him in danger, Scout most of all. The controversy intensified when Drew crossed an unthinkable line by demanding that Detective Harrison Chase arrest Danny Morgan. The supposed crime? Danny had simply agreed to drive his younger sister Scout to the Quartermain mansion to visit family. What should have been a sweet, innocent gesture between siblings was twisted by Drew into a matter of law enforcement, as though Danny had orchestrated some kind of abduction. To make matters worse, this confrontation unfolded in front of Jason and Alexis, both of whom were left stunned by the sheer absurdity and cruelty of Drew's demands. Even Chase, a man known for his loyalty to procedure, refused to comply, recognizing immediately that Drew's insistence had nothing to do with justice and everything to do with his own vendetta. The fallout from this incident lingers heavily over Scout. Though Chase prevented Danny from facing handcuffs, the message was clear: Drew is willing to weaponize the law, even against a teenager, if it serves his interests. For Scout, the lesson is brutal. Her father is not a safe harbor but rather a storm that threatens to destroy every connection she values. The psychological toll of such experiences is immeasurable, and even those closest to Drew are beginning to question whether he sees Scout as a beloved daughter or merely a pawn in his escalating war against anyone who opposes him. The question of Drew's motives has now become central to the unfolding storyline. Is he truly trying to secure a better life for Scout by uprooting her to Washington, D.C., or is he running from the trail of wreckage he has created in Port Charles? To many, his intentions appear self-serving. His pattern of alienating allies, exploiting vulnerabilities, and undermining trust suggests that this move is less about Scout's well-being and more about Drew's desperate attempt to regain control over a life spiraling into chaos. Meanwhile, the collateral damage continues to mount. Alexis, who cherishes Scout as the last living link to her late daughter Sam, has been devastated by Drew's unilateral decisions. She views Scout not just as a granddaughter but as the heart of her family's fragile recovery after Sam's tragic death. To have Drew declare that he alone holds authority over Scout's life is a wound Alexis cannot ignore. For a woman who has lost so much, the threat of losing Scout is unbearable, and those who know Alexis understand she is capable of drastic action when cornered. As Drew barrels forward with his plan, Port Charles is left to grapple with the fallout. Jason, Alexis, Chase, and even members of the Quartermain family find themselves caught between outrage and helplessness, knowing that every step Drew takes pulls Scout further from the stability she deserves. Whether Drew is written out of the narrative entirely or remains to face the consequences, his trajectory has already altered the dynamics of the town in profound ways. His downfall, should it come, will not be quiet or without lasting repercussions. At its core, this chapter of General Hospital is not just about one man's unraveling, it is about the ripples of destruction left in his wake. Drew Kane's choices have tested the resilience of Port Charles, strained its families, and forced painful questions about loyalty, love, and what it truly means to protect a child. And as long as Drew continues to blur the line between guardian and oppressor, Scout's future remains caught in a storm of uncertainty, one that promises to shape the next chapter of her life, and the lives of everyone around her. Scout has become the unwilling centerpiece of one of the most heartbreaking battles to grip Port Charles in recent memory. To Alexis, the little girl is more than a granddaughter, she is the last living piece of Sam, a fragile tether to a daughter cruelly taken from her far too soon. Every moment with Scout feels like a chance to keep Sam's memory alive, and losing that connection would mean reopening wounds that Alexis has barely managed to endure. But Drew, consumed by his own self-righteousness and political ambitions, has placed himself in direct opposition to those bonds. He insists that he alone has the authority to determine Scout's future, brushing aside every plea, every suggestion, and every reminder that a child's identity is tied to the family and community who love her. Drew's declaration is not simply a matter of custody, it is a declaration of dominance. By refusing to allow Scout meaningful contact with Danny, Alexis, or anyone else in her extended family, he is effectively erasing the parts of her life that have given her stability and comfort since Sam's death. Danny, her brother and closest confidant, has always been her safe space, the person who understands her pain without explanation. Alexis, despite her flaws and troubled past, has given Scout the unconditional love of a grandmother determined to honor her late daughter's legacy. Cutting Scout off from them is not just cruel, it is a calculated act that strips her of her emotional anchors. For Alexis, the prospect of losing Scout is unbearable. The thought of standing by as Drew drives away, taking with him the last tangible piece of Sam, is enough to unravel her composure. Those who know her well understand the gravity of the situation. Alexis has a history of going to dangerous extremes when it comes to protecting her children. She has killed to shield her family, she has risked her freedom for their safety, and she has endured scandal after scandal for the sake of love. To imagine her quietly accepting Drew's decree is to underestimate the ferocity that lies beneath her grief. Many in Port Charles now wonder whether Alexis's desperation could push her to act against Drew in ways no one expects. Meanwhile, Scout herself is caught in the crossfire of decisions being made over her head. She is too young to fully grasp the complexities of Drew's power struggles, but she is not blind to the consequences. The hurried packing of bags, the tense silences, the absence of familiar faces, all of it is beginning to weigh heavily on her. She longs for the comfort of her brother's presence, the laughter she shares with him, and the sense of belonging she feels with her extended family. Instead, she finds herself swept along by a father more concerned with political maneuvering and vendettas than with the simple truth of a child's needs. Drew's single-minded rush to leave for Washington, D.C. underscores just how little he is attuned to Scout's inner world. His decisions are rooted in fear and control, not in compassion. By pushing forward without regard for her emotional well-being, he risks alienating the very daughter he claims to protect. To outside observers, and to many loyal viewers of General Hospital, this marks the clearest sign yet of Drew's unraveling. What was once a narrative of resilience and second chances has curdled into a cautionary tale of arrogance and self-destruction. The symbolism of this moment cannot be ignored. Drew's insistence on shutting out Scout's maternal family is not only a betrayal of Sam's memory, but also a betrayal of Scout's right to belong. It paints him not as a guardian, but as a usurper, someone determined to rewrite his daughter's story to fit his own ambitions. The more he clings to this path, the more isolated he becomes, not only from Scout but from the broader community of Port Charles. Every step he takes away from her family deepens the chasm, and with each passing day, his downfall feels less like a possibility and more like an inevitability. In the eyes of many fans, this arc feels like the beginning of Drew's ultimate collapse. His failure to prioritize Scout's happiness, his disregard for Alexis's grief, and his obsession with control have created the perfect storm. Whether his fate is sealed by the courts, by Alexis's desperation, or by his own recklessness, the writing seems etched in the air. Drew's attempt to uproot Scout and sever her ties may well be the catalyst for his complete undoing. And when that undoing comes, it is Scout, innocent and undeserving of the chaos, that will stand as the most poignant reminder of everything he lost, not through fate or tragedy, but through his own relentless choices. Beyond the unfolding drama within the storylines of General Hospital, the speculation in real life surrounding Cameron Matheson's 4-year anniversary as Drew Kane has stirred even greater intrigue. In the world of daytime soaps, anniversaries are more than milestones, they often act as signals. Long-running shows use such markers to reassess contracts, character arcs, and audience engagement. For a character like Drew, one who has endured both harsh criticism from viewers and polarizing narrative choices, the timing feels especially precarious. Fans are questioning whether the show is preparing to write Drew out permanently, or if producers will engineer an explosive twist to breathe new life into a role that has struggled to find stable footing. Soap operas thrive on the cyclical nature of exits and returns. Characters vanish under dramatic or tragic circumstances, only to reappear months or years later, sometimes played by different actors, sometimes carrying shocking revelations. Drew's position now feels primed for such a move. The writers could orchestrate his departure as a permanent send-off, allowing Scout's custody battle to reshape the dynamics of the Davis, Quartermaine, and Corinthos families. On the other hand, they could use his exit as temporary misdirection, a hiatus that later paves the way for a triumphant or devastating return. With audience interest piqued, either path would provide fertile ground for drama. If Drew does leave, the central question becomes, what happens to Scout? The child has already endured immeasurable upheaval, and her fate will not only shape Alexis's grief but also reverberate through Port Charles. Molly Lansing Davis has already positioned herself as a key player, stepping into the chaos with the composure of a lawyer and the compassion of family. She has been working tirelessly to challenge Drew's restrictive decree that bars Scout from the family who loves her. Molly's legal expertise could be the catalyst for a reversal, particularly if she presents compelling arguments that paint Drew as an unstable guardian prioritizing control over well-being. But the success of such a strategy depends on whether Drew is willing, or even capable, of listening. The possibility of Willow's involvement adds another layer of complexity. While her relationship with Drew fractured after his manipulations, it has not been entirely buried. Soap narratives are notorious for blurring the lines between betrayal and reconciliation, and Willow's own vulnerability could make her susceptible to rekindling trust. Should she find herself regaining custody of Wiley and Amelia, Drew's support could reposition him in her life as an ally rather than an adversary. Such a twist would dramatically alter the perception of Drew's character, potentially transforming him from the manipulative villain he has become into a flawed but sympathetic father figure fighting for redemption. Yet Drew's survival in Port Charles is anything but guaranteed. The enemies he has amassed paint a dangerous picture. His confrontations with Sonny Corinthos and Jason Morgan already placed him on unstable ground, aligning himself against Sidwell, who operates in shadows with little tolerance for insubordination, has only worsened his odds. If the writers decide Drew's time has run out, his death could be staged as the climax of a revenge plot, a calculated hit orchestrated by any one of the many powerful figures who want him silenced. Such a storyline would not only rid the canvas of Drew but also ripple across other characters' lives, from Scout's devastated adjustment to Alexis's furious retaliation. Alternatively, should the producers choose to keep Drew alive, they could pivot the narrative dramatically. Rather than cutting ties, the writers might decide to use his strained bond with Scout and his fractured relationship with Willow as the foundation for a redemptive arc. The image of Drew clawing his way back from disgrace, proving his worth as a father and partner, could satisfy the portion of the audience still hoping for complexity rather than removal. Soap operas thrive on reinvention, and Drew's controversial history gives him plenty of material to work with. Whether as a man humbled by his own failures or as someone thrust into reluctant heroism in the face of danger. This duality, exit or reinvention, hangs heavily over Drew Kane's storyline. The combination of Cameron Matheson's contract milestone, the on-screen custody battle, and the dangerous alliances forming in Port Charles has created the perfect storm. Fans remain divided, some root for his permanent removal, while others anticipate a shocking twist that keeps him entangled in the web of Port Charles politics and family drama. No matter which path the writers choose, one thing is certain: Scout's role will be central. As the daughter caught between warring legacies, her story will either be defined by Drew's downfall or by his transformation. Alexis, Molly, Willow, Jason, and Sunny all stand to gain or lose depending on how the drama unfolds. In true General Hospital fashion, the stakes are higher than ever, and the uncertainty only fuels the excitement. Whether Drew departs in disgrace, falls victim to a violent vendetta, or rises from the ashes to redeem himself, the impact of his choices, and the choices made about him behind the scenes, will reverberate for months, if not years, to come. The shadow of Monica Quartermain's impending death hangs heavy over Port Charles, and with it comes a tidal wave of emotional and narrative consequences that are certain to reshape the future of General Hospital. Monica has always been the backbone of the Quartermain family, the steadying hand amidst their chaos, the moral compass in a household where betrayal, greed, and rivalry so often defined relationships. Her absence will not merely be the quiet exit of an aging matriarch, it will be the unraveling of a family that has already endured years of fractures, scandals, and power struggles. Without her, the family is destined to drift further apart unless someone, or something, can anchor them once again. In this moment of looming loss, Scout emerges as the unexpected beacon of possibility. Though only a child, Scout carries with her the most precious elements of legacy. She is the daughter of Sam, the granddaughter of Alexis, and a true Quartermain by blood. To Alexis, she is the last tether to Sam's memory, the living reminder of a daughter lost far too soon. To the Quartermains, she is a new generation, a chance to preserve their family name and influence in Port Charles. And to Drew, at least in his own mind, she is the symbol of his claim to legitimacy, proof that he belongs in both the Quartermain dynasty and in the larger narrative of Port Charles's future. This confluence of meaning makes Scout more than just a child. She becomes the battleground on which the next great conflict will be fought. The death of Monica could act as the catalyst for this war. With her gone, there is no longer a figure strong enough to keep the family aligned, no peacemaker to remind them of the bonds they share. Tracy may try to fill that role, but her sharp tongue and manipulative tendencies lack the compassion Monica embodied. Ned and Olivia will grieve, but their ability to lead the family is undermined by their own internal struggles. Brooke Lynn, while devoted, is still defining herself. In the absence of Monica, everyone will look outward, and Scout, innocent yet invaluable, will inevitably become a symbol of what the Quartermains must either fight for or fight over. If Drew remains in Port Charles during this period, the narrative could focus on his fraught attempts to use Scout as his leverage. He may insist that she belongs solely under his care, shutting out Alexis and the Davis family while maneuvering himself into the center of the Quartermain legacy. Such a move would highlight his obsession with control, showing that even in the wake of Monica's death, Drew is incapable of prioritizing Scout's needs over his own ambitions. Yet this storyline also offers the possibility of redemption. Perhaps Monica's death shakes Drew enough to recognize that Scout's role is larger than his own pride. A storyline where Drew, humbled by loss, learns to share Scout with the family rather than hoard her affection could provide a powerful arc of reconciliation. But if Drew exits the show, whether through death, disappearance, or simply leaving Port Charles behind, Scout's position becomes even more precarious. Without her father's overbearing presence, she could finally be allowed to grow within the loving embrace of both the Davis and Quartermain families. Yet such a situation would not come without tension. Alexis, fiercely protective and emotionally fragile, would want to ensure Scout remains tied to Sam's memory and to the Davis clan. The Quartermains, on the other hand, would fight to keep Scout as part of their dynasty, perhaps seeing her as the one who can restore unity after Monica's passing. The question of custody, guardianship, and influence could ignite a long and deeply personal battle, one that tests loyalty, exposes old grudges, and drags every branch of the family tree into the spotlight. In the midst of these conflicts, Molly Lansing Davis stands out as a potential game-changer. Her role as both a family member and a lawyer gives her the ability to influence outcomes in a way few others can. She could be the one to challenge Drew's authority in court, to argue against the Quartermain's claims, or even to establish a legal precedent that keeps Scout connected to all sides of her family. Molly's presence would add layers of realism to the drama, grounding the emotional chaos in legal maneuvering, while also highlighting her own growth as both a professional and a protector of her family's legacy. Meanwhile, Willow's possible re-entry into Drew's orbit adds another unpredictable dimension.